Today on The Lens, we'll be devoting the next 28 minutes to power. No, not wattage or volts, but that special something that can go to a guy's head and cause him to start his own TV show by spinning in his chair and spinning and spinning and spinning, really as long as I want, until I stop and say, "You're in for a heck of a show. Start that show, Mr. Director." Welcome back to The Lens. I'm your host, Matt Weber, and I am on a bit of a power trip right now, unapologetically. My head is pretty big right now. I'm feeling on top of the world sitting here in Studio 8L in Watertown, Massachusetts.
Matt, excuse me.
Again, I'm on a power trip. I don't like to be interrupted, but go ahead, Chuck.
Well, Matt, we have it on good authority, in fact, the highest authority, that the meek shall inherit the earth.
The meek shall? And I've never heard that. Helen, what is he talking about?
Forget that. Humility is just a way more appealing quality than ego is, Matt. Come on.
Please, Helen. I don't think you know what happened to me this week.
Matt.
Charles, this is twice now. 3 strikes and you're out.
Well, Matt, I just must observe that while we all from time to time fall out of the stupid tree, it takes a special talent to contrive to strike every single branch on the way down.
Oh, little Chucky. As my grandmother would say, little Chucky, but she'd say, Maddie, no. Folks, let me tell you actually what happened with no interruptions. I was just walking around Davis Square in Somerville, Massachusetts, minding my own business this past week, feeling just like a regular old guy, like a Charles Green type, you know? And sure enough, a car pulls right up in front of me, and he rolls down his window, and I'm going to tell you something. Yes, Helen?
That sounds terrifying, actually. That does not sound... Why did you talk to this person?
Guy rolls down his window, and no, it was not a scene from The Godfather. Quite contraire, Helen. It was actually words that were sprayed in my general direction, sweet ones of great jubilation. He said, "Hey," looking at me, "it's that guy from The Lens."
Okay.
And I waved back like a seasoned Kate Middleton. And my friend standing next to me visiting from out of town said, "Matt, I didn't know you were that famous." And at that moment, like the heart of Dr. Seuss's Grinch around Christmas time, my head grew to new heights and the sweet taste of power, the power of being on TV, commanding an audience wherever I go. I suckled from the sweet July sky.
Matt, are you almost done with this?
Matt, this is amusing, but it's also kind of anxiety producing. I personally prefer the tinfoil hat Matt Weber as opposed to the Napoleon hat Matt Weber.
All right, yes, good point. And scene. Folks, power can be a funny thing. It ties in with pride, attention, responsibility, and resources. And while I just acted like a complete pompous fool in front of you all, it was to make a point. The thesis being, when necessary, fight the power. When needed, embrace the power. Let's first start with fighting it. There are many people out there with power who may be saying ridiculous things in hopes they use their power to influence you. Now, I don't want to say any specific names for fear of maybe having my personal cell phone number shared with the world, so I'll let this representative image do the talking. Let's just observe that. All right? Maybe you know who I'm talking about. It is sometimes hard to ignore this kind of power, to lean critically to a certain ubiquity of absurdity, but nonetheless, it can be hard to keep power in check. That's why in government we have presumed balance of power, so that no one, man or woman, can go totally off base with their influence. Yet we see this in the news outside the United States. I feel like we have observed another form of power abused in the recent escape of El Chapo, the criminal who escaped from a maximum security Mexican prison. Below him was an underground tunnel built just for him, with a series of air vents and lighting and even a motorcycle to get him out even quicker. Who knows the exact details of how this elaborate plan happened, but it is power that made it possible, and abuse of it. Like money and many vices, power is a wonderful servant, but an awful master. You can run with it and lose yourself in its consumption. When it comes to power and the many role models of those with power who yield it justly, it's hard not to look at our boss, Pope Francis, who seems to take his power and apply it for good, resisting many of the trappings of power. And even beyond Pope Francis, how about Pope Francis's boss, God? An all-knowing being who is smiling down gently upon us, even as we do things that we think are great, as we're cheering over new pictures of Pluto, likely thinking, guys, you ain't seen nothing yet, humans. I mean, God didn't just create Earth or the solar system, this way of milk, or Milky Way as Charles says, but God made the entire universe. Talk about power. And yet he requires very little in return, to be a good steward of it, for us to be good tenants of this leased space of ours. They should write an encyclical about this. And so I say to myself whenever I get a big head, and I say this now to the powerful people of the world, whether you are El Chapo, El Trumpo, Il Papa, or viewers of El Pluto, compared to God, we all should be humble and contrite, good neighbors, kind, and in awe of the power that started this whole worldly symphony of ours. Value power, but within reason. Use it for good, but don't let it change you for the worse. I've seen that happen more times than not. To paraphrase my wife, she says, Matt, humility is very attractive. Now, there aren't Forbes lists of the 20 most humble people in business or in the world, but maybe if Forbes is watching, there should be. And I've got a few good names for the top of that list, many of which who sit and work in this studio and in this building. And I'm sure you all do too. You know great humble people. So I'm asking you to now tweet your most humble people that you know of 2015. We'll put together our own list here on The Lens. Tweet The Lens CTV, hashtag The Lens CTV. Let us know the people who should be on the top 20 most humble people list. And folks, we'll talk a little bit more about power when we'll be right back.